Hello, this is Aaron at Popaholic, and today I am talking with Linus Dobson, otherwise known as Linus of Hollywood. How are you doing today, Linus?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, I wanted to congratulate you on your new album, Something Good. It's definitely one of my top 10 this year. It's phenomenal. And I wanted to ask, just to start off on, it took a long time for this album to see the light of day, I guess. If you compare it to over 8 years or so before your last one.
Yeah, I can't believe it's been that long, but you know how time just sort of flies. I started thinking about doing this album in 2008, and some of these songs were even written around then. When It's Quiet and Trying to Be Good, those songs are some of the older songs on the record. But my life has just gotten really busy producing other bands, and lately I've been doing a lot of sort of TV and film composing and things like that. So before you know it, 8 years goes by, and I can't believe it's taken that long, but I'm glad that I just was able to get this collection of songs out into the world, and I'm already thinking about my next record, and I'm not going to let another 8 years go by.
So I guess I've been following you since Size 14. Now I was told, I read that you got that name for the band because your shoe size is 14. You got big feet.
I know. I'm actually wearing some 15s right now.
Wow.
They keep getting bigger. It's like I have clown feet.
So tell me about the journey from when you first got to California and, you put together, a band and got I guess your first recording contract. And tell me a little bit, I know it's a long story, but maybe you could abbreviate and tell me a little bit about how you got to where you are now.
Well, it's a good question. I did an interview a couple weeks ago, and the interviewer asked me, when did I get my big break? And it sort of ties in with the question you just asked me, because I haven't really gotten a big break. I've basically just been out here working and working. I came out in 1994, formed Size 14. We got a record deal in 1997. And, by the time we got signed, I think we got signed in March. Our record came out in July. We went on tour, and we got dropped in November.
Oh, boy.
So it was sort of a whirlwind, and, I was basically back at my telemarketing job just going, oh, my God, what happened? And around that time, I was reading a book called The Fountainhead, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Yes, Ayn Rand.
And it actually, inspired me just to sort of follow my own heart and just really do something that I wanted to do and not really think about the commercial aspects of it or whatever. So I was working at that telemarketing job, and at that time I was listening to a lot of late 60s music, like the Zombies and the Beach Boys and the Beatles and
right.
all that kind of stuff. And I was thinking, I really want to do an album that's like that, just really pure classic pop music. And so I had an 8-track digital recorder and one crappy microphone. And in my bedroom, I recorded what became Your Favorite Record. And I just put it out myself. I didn't really expect anyone to like it or care or whatever.
Right.
And then I found there was an audience for that. And I ended up selling a lot of records in Japan and overseas. And it turned out to be a really cool thing. And so that was inspiring for me, because I kind of just followed my heart and sort of expressed my writing in the purest form, and people reacted well to it. So that started me on my solo career, which has spanned over the course of many years. But along the way, I've been doing all sorts of other kinds of work, producing other bands, and I've got a couple record labels, and I've just sort of floated around in these little pockets of of work, for the last 20 years or so, and somehow managed to make a living. And I always said when I was a teenager, if I could just make a living playing music, I would consider myself successful, because I'm truly doing what I love, and I'm not a millionaire or anything like that, but I feel really lucky and blessed to have been able to do this for 20 plus years.
Yeah, I mean, you're involved in a couple other bands as well. Nerf Herder, which is, a punk pop band from Santa Barbara. When there's a new album coming soon, I saw on your website a new Nerf Herder album is expected soon, right?
Yeah, I was a huge fan of Nerf Herder before I was ever in the band. I joined in about 2008. So I've been in the band for about 6 years now, but the last album they put out was right before I joined. So this is actually the first album I'm going to be on. We're making one right now. There's a pledge music campaign. We've already funded the album, but we're still accepting pledges and stuff like that. And we've got it about half done, so I imagine sometime in the early portion of 2015 there'll be a new Nerf Herder album, which I'm super excited about.
Do you do any songwriting in that?
No, actually, Perry is the man. Perry comes up with the ideas. He has the songs. He sort of brings them into us in a rough form, and we kind of come up with little parts and vibes and stuff. And he's pretty generous about sharing the credit. But at the end of the day, it's definitely his vision and his songs. And like I said, I'm a fan, so I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Well, Perry's great. But also, you've worked with some of the, what I would consider the cream of the crop of the music industry, as well as the power pop genre. You've worked with, Probe and Gregory the Wondermints, Roger Manning, Andy Sturmer, Willie Wisely, Parthenon Huxley, and Puffy Ayumi. You've worked with all these people that I pretty much admire. Were you in part of Roger Joseph Manning's tour of Japan?
Yeah, pretty much all of the tours that he's done, as far as I'm aware, as a solo artist. It's been me and this guy named Aaron Kaplan playing guitar, and then Eric Scotus playing drums, who was in Imperial Drag as well. And we toured on both of his solo albums. I think he's making a new one now. But yeah, we went to Japan and we did the Fuji Rock Fest, and Jason Faulkner got up on stage, and we got to pretend like we were in Jellyfish for a moment.
Yeah, I was really going to ask about that, because I know that occasionally Roger and and a bunch of the old Jellyfish guys somehow like gravitate together, and a lot of concert work over there. Was there any ever talk, even if it was idle chatter, of reforming the band at some point?
Of reforming Jellyfish?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think Roger and Jason still get along, and the other guys. There's a sort of a well-documented rift in the band. I'm sure you've heard about it. So I think there's a couple members that aren't talking to each other or whatever. I'm not really privy to it, and it's kind of none of my business. But I don't think it's likely.
Okay.
There'll be a Jellyfish reunion, although that would be amazing if there were.
Okay. You also co-own a label with Bowling for Soup frontman Jared Reddick, correct?
That's correct. We have a label together called Crappy Records, and we started it with another friend of ours named Carl Capriolio, who owns Olio Records. That's a lot of cool power pop stuff. And basically the idea of the label was we wanted to just start. We felt like there was a sort of a void in some of the fun kind of pop punk bands that Jarrett and I loved so much. And we wanted to sort of start a label that sort of featured fun or funny kind of bands. And so we signed MC Lars, who's a pretty well-known white rapper, and a band called The Leftovers, who are a really great pop punk band from Portland, Maine, who have now broken up, but their singer Kurt Baker is still making records.
Yes, I am very familiar with Kurt. He was at our first Power Popaholic Fest last year. Before he went to Spain, he came to visit me in New York, and he played. It was awesome. I would love to have you get more bands on your label as well that are like-minded and like-sounding.
Yeah, at the moment, I mean, we sort of had this run where we were doing it really intensely for a couple years, and I'm sure the record business isn't quite what it used to be. Is that you throw all this money into promotion and doing stuff, and then no one really buys albums as much. They just kind of steal it for free off the internet or whatever. So it's something that we've all just kind of shifted our focus from. So I'm not quite sure if there's going to be any new Crappy Records activity, but for a couple years we had a nice little run, and we made some really cool records that we're proud of.
Cool. I mean, getting back to Something Good, some of the songs do feel like, they carry over some of the same girl-boy kind of romantic themes that your earlier albums have. There's also a very some unusual, defiant kind of lyrics in some of these other songs, like Biography and I Don't Want to Go Home If You Are Not. Can you tell me a little bit about those songs?
Yeah, I mean, over the course of the last 8 years since the last record I've made, I've gone through just a lot of personal sort of changes. I was married and now I'm divorced, and I went through a crazy relationship, and that ended as well, and just a lot of sort of personal transitions that were necessary and actually really good for them all to happen. But obviously there were a lot of emotions that I felt. So a lot of these songs I sort of wrote, like I Don't Want to Go Home If You're Not There is a very sort of direct, there's not a lot of hidden meaning there. It's a very literal and direct lyric.
Right.
But it's a lyric that I wrote when I was having that feeling and literally driving in my car and trying to avoid going home, because you don't want to go home when the person that you're in love with is not there and all that kind of stuff. So
right.
That's where that came from. And Biography I wrote literally about a month ago, like right before the album was being mixed. There was a song on the album. There was only one song on the album that I was kind of like, not really feeling this song. So I had the idea for Biography for a couple of years, and I was thinking about putting it on my next record, which is going to be a lot more acoustic based. But I ended up finishing the song, and it just really seemed to fit in, and I was really excited about it. And sometimes those songs that just pour out of you are the ones that people react to the most. I probably wrote that song in about 20 minutes.
Well, I would think also the song "Don't Fuck It Up" also came out that same way. It's almost like a visceral, like type of, hey, this is this is where the nerves come in a relationship. And I wrote out in the review, and I kind of feel that way. Like if this song had been made during the record label era, quote, then they definitely would have cleaned that one up.
Yeah, I struggle with that a little bit, because if on iTunes or whatever, if you have one song on your album that has like one swear word, then your whole album gets categorized as explicit. But,
right.
But a lot of my favorite records, I mean, even Harry Nilsson had a song with the F word in it,
yep.
And the Knack, Get the Knack, they had a dirty version of that album that I love, and so I think I've gotten a couple people on my Pledge Get Band that are like, are you going to do a clean version of this song? And I'm just kind of like, no, I'm not. Because first of all, I'm not really trying to get on the radio. Obviously, our style of music, the power pop, doesn't really get a lot of traction on commercial radio. So,
right.
So why bother doing a clean version unless someone comes along and says, hey, we really want to use this in a so-and-so.
Unless someone puts a children's record out and you have to write "Don't Mess It Up."
Yeah, well, that was actually the thing that I was struggling with. I was going to try and call it "Don't Mess It Up," and I'm just like, that doesn't sound as cool. It doesn't sound as effective. And there's even a lyric at the end of that song. It's sort of a background vocal, and I say, I'm sorry if it sounds a little profane, but no other words really say it the same. Right. And that sort of sums it up. It would have been a different song and way less impactful if I had called it "Don't Mess It Up."
Correct. It's visceral and emotional, and it belongs there that way. Tell me a little bit about when you're producing other people's stuff, and sometimes you write their songs as well as produce. You tailor a lot of what their sound and what they're about into your songwriting process, or do you just write a song and then when you're composing it, then that process takes place?
It depends on what the person I'm working with wants. I mean, there are some people that come to me specifically because they love my albums and they love the way I write, and they'll literally say to me, hey, can you write me a song that sounds like a girl that I like, or can you write me a song that sounds
right.
like, this Size 14 song or whatever. And it's pretty easy for me to do that, obviously, because that's my style of writing. But a lot of people are sort of recommended to other people, or like managers send me a lot of their bands. So like, for instance, the last couple of years, I've sort of gotten this pocket of doing sort of boy band, like One Direction type bands. Mm-hmm. And, they basically just want kind of a hit song, like a Radio Disney kind of song, and so I would write those songs with them. They would sort of give me some tracks that they liked on the radio that were at that time, and we just kind of vibe on those and get in that mode and mindset. And a lot of the lyrics I sort of get from their experiences, because obviously I'm 41 years old and these are teenagers, so it's going to be a lot more legit if they're writing about what they're going through at that particular time. But yeah, it's really fun for me to sort of stretch out and put my mind in different places and try different sounds, stay current and all that sort of thing.
Awesome. Well, tell me about, like, are you going to be doing anything in additional to promote this new album? Are you going to be touring at all, or is it just basically, you're putting it out and then you're getting back to work on the next album?
I do want to give this record a chance. Historically, I've been so busy doing stuff, I sort of put out an album and then I move on to the next project. But I'm sort of using this album as a sort of reintroduction, just to sort of remind people I'm still around. And instead of sort of doing everything all at once like a traditional release, I'm sort of just doing everything slowly. So over the last couple weeks, I put out a couple lyric videos. I have 4 actual proper videos that are being made as we speak, and those will be unveiled over the next month or two. I'm going to be visiting England in December. It hasn't been formally announced yet, but I'm going to be touring with another band over there in December for a week, so that'll be awesome.
Oh, great.
And then, trying to figure out how to get back to Japan, hoping to link up with someone in the U.S., someone that I could just sort of do an acoustic tour with. Hopefully another power pop minded person.
You could always come to IPO or to Power Popaholic Fest. So it depends on how your schedule works out, which is great.
That would be fun.
I
did the IPO show here for the LA show. It was a lot of fun.
Great.
With Willie Wisely and Adam Daniel and Chris Price. It was a really fun night.
Nice. Well, I want to thank you for your time, Linus. I appreciate the call. This is a great album. Like I said, it's definitely high atop my 2014 list for Best Power Pop Album of the Year. And I wish you more success, continued success. Please stay around, keep making music, because we love it, and we want you to keep doing it. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for helping spread the word.
No problem. Take care now.